Recently I rerolled Poison Spark and had a good time with a build. So here's the video about it, with a bit of history first. Poison Spark is an archetype that was under spotlight a while ago, but Shitsugi gems were out, we had all quality gems from Heist. And Phantasmal Spark used to convert 40% of lightning damage to chaos per 20 quality. Combined with Ashes of the Stars, you were able to convert all of your lightning damage to chaos and poison that way. As an added bonus, you had things like Anomal's Blooded Sand that gave extra projectile speed and also scaled with quality. Over time, Spark itself lost quite a lot of innate projectile speed, and after 3.23 the most popular Poison Spark setup got obliterated with the removal of all quality gems. That is not to say you could not have played Poison Spark after Affliction. The strongest and by far the most expensive setup is using an original sin. With it, all your lightning damage is converted to chaos, as well as that you don't care about enemy chaos res. The downside is obvious, the price. At this point you spend multiple mirrors to play a poison build. If you just want to dump all of your money into a setup like this, I'll go over it later in the video. The other setup is by running Inextricable Fate Boots. Combined with Mind Spike Cordial Anoint, you apply stacks of Raspin Wines on a hit against enemies, and with 3 unmarked Raspin Wines, your damage will poison. I tested this in Settlers and I'd call it playable but nothing fancy. On one hand, you don't need any chance to poison, on the other you're adding an extra delay step on a poison build. The last thing you could have done in the past is lighting Volker's Guidance. Less poison duration is not that big of a downside, as you might think, especially if you inflate your DPS by something like 8-second poisons in the first place. There are more interesting glove options though. So what did we get in this league? With Keepers of the Flame there are new tools for Poison Spark. Some people have already tried out Assassin with Infused Toxic notable for all damage can poison. The Ascendancy has limited defenses though, and while there are some interesting things you can do, I'm opting for a different version. The Lacey Bloodline Ascendancy Sinner's Saint converts half of your lightning damage to chaos, combined with the new Foulborn Blue Nightmare near Mind Over Matter to convert the rest of your lightning damage to chaos with the help of Tattoo of Valaka Stormrider applied on intelligence trail points. Spark is a skill that needs a lot of projectile speed and a solid amount of increased duration to feel good. And this is a Widow Hail setup, meaning that our quiver gets 3x the effect of modifiers. In this case, Spark gets 7 pierces, the majority of chance to poison, and a ton of projectile speed. Pathfinder is the go-to Ascendancy choice. Easy Wither application and huge Flask Sustain. Combined with Ties of Time gives us an ability to turn Flask into powerful and reliable tools. There isn't much to be said about Progenesis. Simply the strongest Flask in the game, giving us over 50% additional max hit. Mana is a big challenge for casters. With Replica Sword of the Divine, we turn our energy shield into additional mana layer. Combined with Mind Over Matter, we're splitting a portion of our damage between energy shield and life. Thanks to Master Surgeon and a different property of Replica Sword of the Divine, we are getting uninterrupted 2000 plus life and energy shield recovery per second. Another win for Tides of Time. I love this belt. I'm running 2 cluster jewels. The first one is your classic 12 passive lightning damage, with 35% increase effect, and 3% increased gas speed with lightning skills, plus some other nice stuff. The other one is an 8 passive chaos damage cluster. The purpose of this one is to get Unholy Might with Overwhelming Malice, and make it so our Asenov's Explosion deal chaos damage, and we are scaling a good amount of generic chaos damage for that. There are a lot of moving pieces with the build, and you should adapt it to your liking and circumstances surrounding it. Given that, I'm going to talk about some of the more common questions I've encountered over my time playing with the build. The TLDR for most of them is, it's all about an opportunity cost. Something that I bought for a literal bargain was a +1 Curse Amulet. But there are very few items like this showing up on trade, and in that case, or when someone lists them for a ridiculous price, you have to find a workaround. Option 1 is to run Chaos Inoculation Impossible Escape. You can pick up Whispers of Doom, as well as some of the other useful notables, such as Serpentine Spellslinger, Influence, and Atrophy. Otherwise, you'd have to anoint Whispers of Doom and solve the missing mana reservation deficiency from Sovereignty. But the easiest solution would be to path to Dynamo and pick up the 12% mana reservation mastery. Increased mana doesn't do anything, but the extra moral duration is nice, and it's the most efficient way to get to the mastery alongside Battle Rouse. I'm running double Dark Marionette Spectre for an extra haste aura. If you're not a Spectre enjoyer and don't plan on running haste at all, you can pick up Runegrower of Treachery for 15% mana reservation efficiency instead. The downside is that our auras affect enemies as well as us, but it doesn't matter for Grace, Purifier, and really Malevolence. Giving them haste with aura effect is scary though. Quite a few people ask me if they need exactly 250% roll on Widow Hail, and if there are any breakpoints coming with it. The answer for the second question is yes. The quiver has +2 pierce modifier, and a 250% increase effect, it goes up to 7. If you find with 6 pierces, and many leagues I've played on a build with 5 and I was fine, you can settle on a lower roll, because other modifiers don't really have any crucial breakpoints. I'm also running Rakiata Lethal Pride, which converts keystones in radius into Tempered by War. I'm going for max fire res, and that gives a solid amount of max hit for the other 2 elements. You can do other things to boost your defenses, highlighted to me by Crouching Tuna. It is an option to run Taste of Hate instead of Ruby Flask, Purify instead of Purifier, and drop in Tempered by War altogether. Max hit will be slightly lower, but you would free up your self-exist, since now you're not pressured on resistances anymore. The last thing that I have in my mind is to pick up Melting of the Flesh, but you have to get some extra resistances, as well as that to cover up for the missing 4% max fire res. I was also reminded that you shouldn't place your Light of Meaning next to Lethal Pride. The points in the Lethal Pride radius will override the bonuses you get from Light of Meaning, which is why I'm placing my Light of Meaning next to Supreme Ego. If you can solve the strength pressure, you should place your Lethal Pride at that spot instead, and suck a Light of Meaning in the side area. A quick item overview. I mentioned most of the stuff already, but let's just keep it tight in one place as well. Widow Hail with the max effect of Equip Quiver, and I got some nice Simplicity on top of it for mapping. You don't really need it per se, you can also equip Blood Rage and get your Frenzy charges on kill that way. This is my Quiver, multiplying the effects. I got quite unlucky while crafting it, so I have 2 tier 2 modifiers. Movement speed is nice, but getting movement speed on this is quite painful. The way you make it is with recoms, and if you know how it works, you know how to do it. If not, then I would not like to explain it to you. Doppelganger, I like this chest. There are some other good defensive options, but I prefer this one over the others. My 2 rings are Helical and Betrayal Sing. Betrayal Sing is very strong as a one-off, and Helical just provides a lot of useful stats. You can obviously save up some money by not making it on a Helical, but some other bases. I run Azimuths for easy double kills and hit, as well as there's some explosions. I'm not a fan of default Azimuth explosions though, because they deal physical damage and we don't really scale physical damage. Which is why, as I mentioned already, I run in All Realm and Malice Cluster Jewel to make it so we can convert this damage to Chaos, and we have quite a bit of generic Chaos damage scaling. Tides of Time, I really like this belt. I already explained why it is so good. It gives us permanent sustain, we're getting increased effect of Unique Flask, which is quite difficult to come by, as well as that more than double the recovery for the Life Flask. That is not queuing up. Speaking of Flask, this is my Life Flask. I run this modifier, grants percentage of life recovery to minions, so that I can sustain my marionettes that have Guardian Blessing on them. Replicas are Divine, insane. Genesis, insane. Silver Flask, Onslaught with increased effect, pretty good. And Ruby Flask to max out the fire res. And yeah, Replica Dragon Fang. Very, very good amulet for quite a bit of time. And yeah, I guess I'll talk briefly about my crafts. Storming Ash craft, when you press it on the boss fight, you can get like 10% shock on them, which is not that good because of Wither, but whatever. I have attack and cast speed, but you can also get stuff like lightning damage. The other one is Harder Than Oak craft. That procs when we get into low life to give us endurance charge and more life recovery rate, which works for Floods. I also tried Molten Zop craft for the Molten Shell. The problem is that it's overriding the Immortal Call. You cannot have both at the same time. The implicits, as you see, I didn't corrupt them, but there are some good implicits like skill effect duration and stuff like that. So if you really want to min-max this, there are some good routes you can go for. If you want to dump mirrors worth of items into Poison Spark, well, you should run Original Sin. This will free up the Bloodline Ascendancy passive points and you wouldn't have to care about enemy resistances. As good of an item as Replica Dragon Fang is, it wouldn't be able to compete against Reflected plus 8 levels Focus Amulet. You can get even more levels on your Doppelganger, move your Spark setup to the bow that has a faster projectile support corruption, and get some extra levels via auras instead. Soul Ascension with the Curzon hit will give you a big boost to the cast speed, and you'd obviously run a second 12 passive Cluster Jewel at this point. I don't really have a PoB for a multi-mirror Poison Spark at the moment, but if I get all of the items going, I'll add it in the description with some commentary. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say about the build. I'm having a really good time with it. Initially I wanted to start with Assassin, but I was doing more and more PoB prep, and Pathfinder just came on top. Quite a lot of interesting mechanics combining with each other into a very solid build. I've been running different strategies on this one. I've been doing Fear with Uber bosses. I've been doing Tier 17 boss rush, and I was doing Awakened Harvest with like 100% pack size in 8 mod maps. So yeah, I'm just having a really good time with the build, and if you reroll into this, you'll probably have a good time as well. You know, Progenesis is going up and up over time, but that item is insane. So I would highly recommend for you to pick that one up, and then it will make a huge difference. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Thanks for watching, and see you around.